Welcome back to Dreamers Defy, the Reading Corner. We are currently reading Vengeful. This is for chapters 4 and 5. If you're just now finding this video, go look in our playlist and start at the beginning. You can read along with us. Also in the description is the link to this book on Amazon if you would like to read along with us. So there you go. Any other important information I will put in the description. Let's get to it, shall we? It is getting good. Vengeful, Chapter 4, Associate Down. In her office once again, now tidy and in order, Abigail gave her workspace a final look, then gathered her purse, sunglasses, and car keys. She started around her large cherry oak desk, but came up short as Tricia Sims, a fellow associate and rather sophisticated woman in her late 50s, stormed in, her temper fuming just below the surface. As much as Abigail would like to have this conversation with her colleague, Abigail knew she needed to get to her next appointment. Tricia, I was just on my way out. Abigail, explain to me why my patient, the patient I cleared and submitted for release yesterday, was returned to full-time observation by you. Abigail calmly placed her belongings back on her desk and gave Tricia her full attention. After my session with Jessica, I reviewed her file, and in good conscience, I could not allow her to go home in her current state of mind. Jessica had done the work. She was ready for release. That is, until she had her meeting with you. Tricia's face was beet red, her breath coming in short spurts. Abigail kept her tone tranquil as she spoke. Do I need to remind you of the necessity of our secondary reviews? Tricia glared at Abigail. No, you don't. Then you must also know that it is not uncommon for the additional reviewer to find unidentified stressors or emotional issues with a patient that the primary doctor might have missed. Brimming with rage, Tricia pointed at an accusing finger at Abigail. You know damn well that there was nothing wrong with Jessica, and you putting her back into that unit will set her back for months. Or it will give your patient the help she desperately needs. Abigail folded her hands before her. Tricia, you have one of the heaviest workloads here at the facility. No one blames you for missing the signs to Jessica's setback. Outraged, Tricia took 2 steps towards Abigail. Blames me? The only person responsible for Jessica's setback is you. I understand your frustration, and I'm more than happy to discuss this with you further if you'd like to schedule an appointment for... Don't bother. I'm taking this up with the board. Abigail nodded in quiet understanding. If you think that's best. Go to hell, Davies. Notebook and pen in hand, Vera rushed into the room, came to an abrupt stop, and stared at the 2 women before she stuttered. Miss Davies, I hate to interrupt, but you wanted me to remind you of your 2 o'clock appointment downtown. Should I call them and let them know you'll be late? Tricia backed toward the door. Don't bother, I'm leaving. Vera watched as Tricia stomped out the door, then relaxed as she turned back to Abigail. I'm sorry, Miss Davies. I tried to stop her from coming in here. Offering the young assistant a kind smile, Abigail gathered her things. It's fine, Vera. I know how difficult Miss Sims can be. Vera scanned the immaculate office, clearly impressed. Wow, you would never know your office had been broken into. I could have cleaned all that up for you, Miss Davies. Abigail motioned to the room. This was something I needed to do. It was my responsibility to see what was or was not missing. And? Brow furrowed, Abigail nodded. I figured out what was taken, informed the police, and put everything back in order. Abigail straightened, plastered on a smile, and turned back to Vera. So now if I hurry, I just might make that meeting on time. Mood bright, Vera held the door open for Abigail. Then you'd best be off. On my way, Abigail said as she started past Vera, then stopped, pointed at her desk, and offered Vera a guilty grin. I left you a couple tickets to the theater tonight. Grateful tears welled up in Vera's eyes. To see Les Miserables? Well, that's the one you've been telling your cute boyfriend Tim you wanted to see, isn't it? Hands to her chest, Vera jumped up and down. Oh my God, it is. How did you know? Laughing, Abigail put a hand to Vera's shoulder to calm her. I have my ways. Abigail laughed, then leaned in and whispered, Let's keep this secret, shall we? I don't want the other interns to get jealous. Still excited, Vera winked. Mum's the word. Thank you so much, Miss Davies. You're incredible. Ready to be on her way, Abigail shouldered her bag, offered Vera a parting wave, and started down the hall. I'll see you in the morning. Bright and early as always, Vera called back before she squealed in delight, rushed into Abigail's office, and hurried toward the desk and her orchestra section tickets. Chapter 5. Don't Ask. Luke reached hesitantly for his car door, then stopped as his eyes scanned the quiet interior of his vehicle. Students shuffled past Luke as they headed toward their own sedans. Luke's hand nervously clenched his keys as he stood, battling his indecision. The dean, a merry old gentleman, startled Luke as he called out to him from across the parking lot. Lock your keys in the ride again, Professor? Forcing a smile, Bolton held up his keys and he tried to stop his hand from trembling. Nope, got him right here. Holding the hand up to the side of his mouth, the dean warned, Then I suggest you make a break for it. Some of those pesky reporters stuck around after the service, hoping to catch you after your last class. The keys rattled in Luke's hand as he jerked to attention. Luke looked back fearfully at the double doors and hit the unlock button on the key fob. Yanking his car door open, Luke nodded to the dean as he got into the car. Thanks for the heads up. Worried, the dean waved back. Any time, friend. Troubled, the dean turned and started back inside one of the large buildings closest to the parking lot. Teeth clenched, Luke was forced to wait until the crowded parking lot slowly dissipated and he was able to pull out of his spot. The last thing he needed now was to have a team of reporters chase him back into his house like a pack of rabid dogs. Making his way through the parking lot, Luke gazed into his rearview mirror and frowned when it suddenly iced over. Exasperated, Luke slammed on the brakes. Why can't you just leave me alone? I didn't ask for this, and I sure as hell don't deserve it. You know why, Emily's agitated voice said. Luke startled as a loud horn blared behind him. Still unnerved, Luke gave an apologetic wave to the driver behind him and turned out the parking lot. I can't do this. On the seat next to Luke, his jacket suddenly pitched off the seat, landed on the floorboard, and sent Emily's jewelry flying out of Luke's coat pocket and onto the mat. Yes, you can, Emily growled. Now that you've gotten the bracelet, you have all the things you need. His focus on the busy road, Luke shook his head. And what if they're right? What if I'm just losing my mind and none of this is real? An angry, deep male voice growled. Stop stalling, St. Luke. If we were a figment of your imagination, then you wouldn't have known where that bitch had stashed our stuff. Luke peered up into the mirror and surveyed the back seat. I could have just as easily seen those things during one of my sessions with Abigail, or maybe she mentioned them during the other times we spent together. A little girl's exasperated voice chimed in. Sure, and you must have just imagined her pretending to love you too, I guess. Flip, a male teen, laughed. Or maybe it was actually you who called the police on yourself and told them you were stalking your therapist instead of her. Body rigid, Luke debated the issue. If I was losing my mind back then, she would have had every right to call the police on me. I was behaving like a lunatic. The voice of a kindly older woman added, Honey, did you also conjure up that look of pure joy on her face when she goaded you into trying to kill yourself? Swallowing hard, Luke pressed his lips into a thin line as his hands began to tighten on the steering wheel. We all saw how she stood there smirking when she found you, near death and unconscious on the floor. If your student had not walked in, she would have happily let you die. So do you really think we're crazy?" Emily asked. Luke slammed both hands against the steering wheel. "I don't know. I don't know. I don't know." Luke veered out of traffic, sped over to the curb, and slid the vehicle to a violent stop. Hand to his chest, Luke battled to regulate his racing heart, fearful that he was about to launch himself straight into a raging panic attack. Quiet now, Emily materialized beside him, her expression one of pity. "I'm sorry." Chest heaving, Luke dared to peek at Emily. Even though she was a flickering shadow, he could still make out the broken bones, ravaged form, and sickly blue tint of her skin. Not wanting to offend her, Luke fixed his stare upon her tormented eyes. Emily continued, "It's just, if you don't help me, if you don't help the others, none of us will be free to move on. We'll be trapped here." Defeated, Luke laid his head back against the seat and closed his eyes. There has to be another way. "I'm sorry, Luke, there isn't. You're the only one who can help us break free." Luke turned and looked back at the spirit of his former student as she continued her argument. "If you don't help us stop her, then we will be trapped in this plane forever. And it won't be just us. There will be others. Mr. Bolton, you know that. So I guess you have to ask yourself, can you live with the fact that you did nothing to stop this injustice when you had the chance to make it right?" Flickering once more, Emily vanished, along with the others, leaving Luke alone in his turbulent thoughts. The young professor peered up into the rearview mirror and caught sight of a bedraggled expression. Deep lines etched his young face along with tired eyes that had once been bright with a world of possibilities. Emily was right. The never-ending stress, uncertainty, and weight of the world that crushed him body and soul had to end, one way or another. However, it was not as easy as Emily wished it to be. Sure, Luke could not deny that the information the others had given him led to finding those things in Abigail's office. Things that looked like trophies a sick, sadistic person would keep after driving someone to kill themselves. Emily had also been right about Abigail and him falling into an affair that she cut off abruptly after Emily's death, both events that had sent him reeling. All of that in and of itself was horrible enough, but the thought of Abigail torturing and harming more unsuspecting, vulnerable people while he sat back and did nothing was something that Luke could not bear. Yet what Emily and the others asked was just as horrible and unforgiving in its own right. So much so that the choice he made was going to cost him part, if not all, of his soul. Join us soon for Chapter 6.